We just got back from our salsa dance lesson, and we saw that one of John's friends had texted him letting him know that he's going to be visiting New Zealand. And we're really excited to share our recommendations on how he can prepare for that trip. And we figured we would just do a video of the information so that you also have it.
Yeah, so here are some things to do while preparing for a trip to New Zealand.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
So recently we've had friends and family reach out about coming to visit New Zealand. They were asking what would they need to do to prepare for their trip to New Zealand. So that's going to be what we're sharing about today.
One of the first things that I always suggest they look at is the expiration date on the passport. A lot of countries of the world, and I think New Zealand is one of them, require that the expiration date on your current passport is at least a certain number of months out. That's a big gotcha because a lot of people don't know to look at your passport, and it's from the date that you would land in the country. So we'll provide a link with some more information on this from the New Zealand government website. But yeah, definitely look at the expiration date.
Sure, it's an easy one to overlook too, the expiration date on your passport, because most people are like, oh, I've got my passport, and you think you're ready to go because it's still not expired according to the expiration date. But some countries require that it also not expire within a certain time frame after you land in country. So it's important to make sure that you're in the given time frame for New Zealand, which I think it's like 6 months, but we'll put the link here as to where you can look that up just in case so that you can be sure of what that time frame is, because that would be a horrible situation to be prepared to go to New Zealand and then not be able to go because your expiration on your passport isn't within a certain time
I think
frame.
this almost happened to my mom. After she booked her flight, she looked at her expiration date and realized, oh, it's within 6 months from the date that she arrives. So she had to get a new passport before she came. Yeah. So the next thing is an NZETA. When we first planned our visit in 2019, we had booked our flights
Months in advance, and something that really was just like a last minute surprise that we had to do.
Yeah, we learned that we had to get an NZETA, which is kind of like a pre-authorization for a tourist visa. We had to get that before we boarded our flight to New Zealand. Yeah, anyone that's entering New Zealand as a tourist must get an NZETA before traveling to New Zealand. And that's whether you're coming to New Zealand to stay in New Zealand for a while, do the touristy things, or even just to transit through New Zealand. Say you're connecting through Auckland on your way to Australia. You also must have an NZETA. And the NZETA applies for travelers whose passports are from, they call it visa waiver countries. So that's the US, Canada, the UK, there's a long list of countries. So think of it as the NZETA is like a tourist visa, and that's different from a regular visa. A regular visa would be you want to come to New Zealand to work or to stay for a while, and that's a whole separate process.
So how do you go about getting it? Because you got ours. I remember you took care of that for us.
Yeah, it was actually quite easy. I went to the NZETA Immigration New Zealand website, and they actually had a link to their app. There's an Android app and an iPhone app. So I downloaded the iPhone app and followed the instructions. And it took about 15-20 minutes for each of ours. I think I had to take a selfie of my face. I had to do
Oh gosh, I remember the selfie part because I was not picture ready at all.
Yeah, they also asked for some basic information about our passport and about, I think they asked when we would arrive. And that was it. We got an email in about 10 minutes after submitting. At least I got my email. Yours happened a little later.
Because mine was on at a different time. So.
Yeah, I think we did yours off business hours, New Zealand hours. So I think that's why it took some extra time.
Makes sense.
So, but we also read that the NZETA can take up to 3 days.
Yeah, so it's not something that you want to arrive at the airport and be like, oh, it just takes 10 minutes, I'll just do it right now before I board, because if it takes 3 days or if it takes longer than that, you might not be able to board the plane.
So the next requirement to enter New Zealand is the Onward travel requirement. And this was also new to us. We actually had a friend that was coming to visit in very short notice. He bought a one-way flight to New Zealand. And when he tried to check in to his flight, they asked him to submit his Onward travel information. That is a booked cruise or a booked flight that he has paid for out of New Zealand. And he actually didn't have one, so he had to actually make some quick plans and and book something before he could travel to New Zealand.
Right. If you're coming over on the NZETA and you're flying to New Zealand, then they will require that you have another ticket purchased also that's taking you out of New Zealand.
Yeah, that can be a return flight. Let's say if you bought a round trip return ticket, that's fine. Or perhaps you bought a one-way ticket to Auckland and then maybe you're flying to Sydney afterward. That's fine too. Or maybe you're getting on a cruise. But they probably will ask to actually see that ticket unless it's a round trip ticket on the same airline. The next thing that our friends and family sometimes ask is, how long can I stay in New Zealand? The short answer is up to 3 months. And we'll provide a link to the information. You can read it for yourself. So if you're coming to visit New Zealand, you may have the NZETA, and that lasts for 2 years. But each time you arrive in New Zealand, you'll get a 3-month tourist visa.
That's what it is right now. We're always going to recommend you to look at the government website. We have a link that we can put here that'll take you to that information. So those were some of the things for a trip to New Zealand that we kind of feel could be like kind of a big oops if you don't know to do those things. The next part of this video, we're going to talk about what we would recommend as a good packing list, essentially, if you're visiting New Zealand.
Yeah, the question I get asked sometimes is, what do I bring on the plane? Obviously, I mean, that's a question you can answer for yourself. Your necessities, maybe you have medications, maybe you want to bring a comb, maybe you want to bring a good book or a laptop, iPad. Most of that is really up to you. It is a long flight, but there are a few things that I recommend also thinking about bringing. The number one thing that I recommend to bring on the plane to New Zealand is a pen, a regular old ink pen. And the reason is during the flight, they will hand out a passenger arrival card and everyone has to fill it out. And I've been on the planes many times and they do have pens that go around, but they never have enough pens for every passenger. So I end up waiting and asking, oh, excuse me, can I borrow your pen? And I feel nervous because this card is required and it's not filled out, and I can't get any sleep until I fill out this card. So I learned to just bring my own pen, and then once I get the card, I can fill out right away and I can go to sleep.
I guess I just have to use his pen when I'm on board. What's number 2?
The number 2 thing that I recommend bringing is water. And even though they have water that they serve on the plane,
that's my number 1.
I like to bring extra water.
Yeah.
Whether I bring an empty bottle and then after I go through security, I fill it up at one of the drinking stations, or I just buy a bottle of water. I like to have at least some extra water on the plane with me. It helps me sleep. And sometimes they don't serve enough water on the plane.
Well, also, they don't necessarily serve it when you need it. Like when the plane's taking off and your ears start popping, if you have the water, that helps with your ears, or else sometimes when you're landing, same deal. So if you don't have that water readily available, if your ears are like mine and that they get all stuffed up and poppy and stuff like that when you're accelerating or
Descending.
I was going to say descending. I was going to say landing, but I'm with you on the water thing.
Yeah.
But I'd move that above the pen on the list. But you can bring both.
The next thing that we recommend bringing is snacks. Yeah, I just bring a few extra protein bars, maybe some peanuts and pretzels, just something.
Right.
Because they do serve a lot of food on these international flights. Sometimes it's not the best food, and sometimes the food is not served when I'm hungry.
Right, or if you have certain food requirements, they might not get it right. That was something that had happened to a family member of ours recently when she was traveling, and they did not get her the meal that she had requested. But she basically didn't get any food the entire trip over, which is so sad because it's a long trip to be without food.
The next thing that I recommend my friends and family bring is a good suitcase with wheels or a backpack. And this is kind of obvious, but there's a lot of distance between where your plane is going to gate and where immigration is. So you could be doing a lot of walking and you may be very tired after a long flight. So at least I'm very tired after a long flight. So I like having a carry-on with wheels that is just very easy to wheel for a long distance.
I had to talk him into this because he used to always bring a duffel bag without wheels. So this is really good for me to hear that he has now converted to the wheels thing.
Yeah, especially for a carry-on bag. Definitely I'm
Yes.
on board. Yeah, I'm on board with this. Yeah, I've learned I just got a really big check luggage and all my stuff goes in the check luggage and I bring the necessities in the carry-on bag.
Yeah. So wheels, good wheels.
Yeah. The thing we recommend is good headphones. And for a lot of travelers, you have good headphones. This is very common, but for a really long flight, I like to sit back and just watch a movie or play a game or listen to music. They do sell headphones on the plane, but who wants to spend $5 for cheap airline headphones?
What about a neck pillow? How do you feel about neck pillows? Because for me, I think neck pillows are kind of an essential bring as well for an international flight that is this long. And there is quite a difference, I feel like, in the different kinds of neck pillows, but I know that you have a different opinion on this.
Yeah, I've tried the neck pillows and I sometimes find it a little awkward to sleep because my head will sleep like this on the pillow or like this. So it's not super comfortable for me. I kind of stopped using them.
Yeah.
Instead, a lot of airlines now have, I call it the wings. So in the seat back, there's like a little like almost like ears. They can kind of flip. If you grab one side, you kind of flip it this way. You grab the other side, flip it this way. And it can kind of hold the head. So I've mostly just relied on that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a different height than me too, so that might be a big reason that we have such a difference on this. But I recommend one. John doesn't because the wing thing. So, height might have something to do with it. I'm 5'2", you're 6'1", so that's a big height difference and how your neck and head are going to fit against the seat. Like the wings don't really work that well for me because they're more like up to here. So it's not as comfortable as me having something holding me here.
Didn't one couple that we know once bring a bed pillow?
A bed pillow?
Oh, maybe that was us.
Oh, pillow. A bed. You mean a pillow from the bed?
You're like a real.
Yeah. So when we went our first international trip together, John actually brought a regular pillow from his bed that was a foam pillow.
Yeah, a queen size pillow.
Queen size pillow, and he let that thing all over. It was his personal item, and
It was a foam pillow. It's super comfy.
We got so many compliments on this pillow. Everyone wanted to know when we were going through the airport. Everyone's asking him, "Where'd you get your pillow?"
It was a popular item at check-in. Everyone was staring at our pillow.
It was John's personal item that he brought with on the airplane, and a little bit embarrassing, but I have to say on the flight back, I think I used that pillow more than he did. And it wasn't just for my neck, like we would just put it kind of like in between us and we both kind of used it. This pillow came with it. That was a lot of flights, but that pillow came with us on every one of them. So you can also use a regular pillow if you want to take it as your personal item.
Yeah.
Most airlines, I don't know if they'll allow that, but the ones we went on for our Africa trip did. So
Yeah,
and that was a lot of different flights, a lot of different airlines. Well, I also want to add to this list gum, or they call hard candies lollies here, which I think is adorable, so that you can have something to suck on
for the ears popping,
or chew for the ear popping. Again, for like the similar thing that you'd use water for, I use water and those things because my ears are all about the let me like make you feel off balance and pop and feel like it's stuffed up if I don't do those things. Also on an airplane, I would say a hoodie is a really useful thing because it's a zip up hoodie because you can take it, it's easy to take on and off if you're getting too hot or maybe the air conditioning isn't working as well, or maybe it's working too well and then you want to keep it on. But then you can also, on some of the hoodies, pull them down and it can help cover your eyes if they have the light on and you just want to sleep but they're turning on the light because they're going to feed everyone. Or you can bring an eye mask. I find eye masks not the most comfortable, but maybe you just want to sleep through the lights being on, and if they turn them on and you've got your little mask on, you get to sleep. It's not going to wake you up. So those are our what to bring on a plane.
One of the things that we're often asked is, what are some of the must-haves to bring to New Zealand? And one of those questions is, should I get cash? Should I get New Zealand cash? Should I bring US cash or my home currency? I think that cash is probably, a little bit of cash might be okay to have on hand, but for the most part, if you have a credit card, that's all you need. And the other thing too is if you plan to rent a vehicle in New Zealand, you'll want to make sure your credit card is a credit card and not a debit card. most car rental companies do not accept debit cards.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. Another thing on our list of things to bring is a driver's license. An overseas driver's license from the UK, from the US, from Canada, it works here. There are some requirements on the list. Your license can't be expired.
We can just put a link up so you can see what those requirements are and check and see if it makes sense for you to be driving with your license, or if you have the requirements on your license or not. But you might be able to drive with your home country driver's license. So
yeah, so bring your driver's license.
And check out the requirements for the other requirement besides just having one.
Thing is good sunglasses.
Yes, good sunglasses for sure.
The sun is definitely stronger, at least it feels stronger in New Zealand. Like brighter, it feels hotter.
Yeah, it just feels harsher. Even out of the corner of your eye, it just is so much harsher than it was in the States. You're getting those direct UVA, UVB, the bad rays for your eyes. And getting sunglasses that are fully protective of that and are polarized. I got the Tafasi sunglasses from REI. You got your Tafasis off of Amazon, which his was a better deal than mine. But it's for the same sunglasses. Yeah, those are different colors.
It was a worthy investment for sure.
Yeah, and I never spend a lot on sunglasses, but that's one purchase I did not regret. I normally spend like $10 on a pair of sunglasses, and I spent $100 on these. So it was quite an investment for me that I don't normally make. I wanted to have the most protection for my eyes, so that's why I felt like I'd spend a little bit more, and highly recommend it.
Yeah. I think we have a video of me driving, and we go around a turn and the sun is low on the horizon. It's right in my eyes. It is really strong.
Yeah, and there are a lot of curves on the roads here in New Zealand. So if you're coming around a curve at just that time where the sun is hitting it too, and another car's coming, it's just like the good sunglasses are super helpful for stuff like that. And while we're talking about the sun, another thing that is a must-have recommend from us is a hat, because that sun is going to come for your face and your ears as well. So, and your scalp. So you want to protect those things from the sun as well. A good hat is a good idea.
Yeah, that could be a baseball cap, an Indiana Jones hat. It can.
Yeah, I prefer one that has the rim, because then it covers your ears too. Sometimes if you've got your hair in a ponytail, your ears are still out. So I just feel like I read an article about people not putting sunscreen on their ears and not covering them, and then suddenly that's where they end up getting cancer issues. So just think about that article when I think about buying a hat without the rim. So I'm recommending one with a rim.
The next must-have is to consider dressing in layers. We really do have 4 seasons in one day here in New Zealand. So the ability to put on some warm clothes and easily unzip and take them off, I find very important.
Yeah, and then to accommodate all that clothes on, clothes off, having a light day pack for visiting New Zealand is going to be so helpful. If you're going to be out adventuring, you don't want to have like, this jacket on your arm or the sweater around your waist and all of that. So just putting it in a light day pack is just so easy. You can just get one that's like a foldable one. Now they do sell them here, but it's much more expensive here than it is in the United States to purchase one of those day packs. But just trying to save you some dollars. Something that we have just recently added to our must-haves if you're visiting New Zealand is a second pair of shoes.
I recommend bringing shoes that are good for walking, and 2 pairs of shoes.
2, yes, but also if you can, maybe one that's waterproof, because
it can rain a lot.
Yeah, and when we just had a visitor, she ended up it rained a lot. Like we're talking about all week, it rained a lot, and we were out adventuring in Rotorua doing a trail out there, and it was a downpour. So her shoes ended up getting soaked through, and she had to slosh around in those things for the rest of the day and the following day, because it was still rainy and there wasn't a place to dry them out. So we were drying them with a blow dryer. So either bring a blow dryer, make sure you have one for your shoes. I think even with the blow dryer though, they still weren't like warm. She wasn't sloshing anymore in them, but it still wasn't like the most comfortable thing. It'd be better just to be able to switch to a dry pair of shoes.
Actually, don't bring a blow dryer because it won't work in New Zealand from the US.
Oh, true point. Just make sure you have one in the Airbnb or hotel wherever you're staying. But yeah, talk about the adapters actually.
Yeah, another thing we recommend is bringing an adapter, just a regular old adapter that converts from the US to New Zealand. That's all you need.
How do you get that? Like,
You can get it on Amazon at any electronics store.
what do you put in to get it? Like adapter for New Zealand, or?
Yeah, it's a power plug.
You got ours, so you can tell from my questions.
Yeah, just put in power plug adapter for Australia, New Zealand to US.
And you put that into Amazon?
You put that in Amazon or just go to any electronics store. I'm sure they have them.
Okay.
I've
never seen them before we got ours.
Oh,
so
really?
when you say that, I've never seen them. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're a little rare. I know that they are common on Amazon. So both Australia and New Zealand use the same plug. And it just looks like it's maybe this big. It's a very...
Oh, crap. This will not plug into outlets in New Zealand. So you would want to get one that looks like this. Let's do like the Instagrammers do.
What do the Instagrammers?
It's this way. I don't know how to do it like an Instagrammer, but so that you can see. On this side, it looks like this.
Yeah,
so
that's the US and Canada plug.
Right. So this part goes into the wall, the outlet, and then you have this plugged in. And then here in New Zealand, they have little switches. You plug this in and then you switch on the outlet, and then your thing will work. So that's how the electricals work here in New Zealand.
So New Zealand has 240 volts. In the US, it's 110. And really all you need to know is, will my electronics work? So anything that is for a computer, for a phone, or for a tablet, it will work. Just get one of these adapters, and you can get a few of them.
But what about like a hair straightener or a hair curler?
Yeah.
Those are the important things.
In general, if it's for the bathroom or for the kitchen, it will not work in New Zealand. So if you did plug in a hair straightener or hair dryer with just one of these little adapters, you will fry your device.
Oh, mine don't fry.
Because before we came, you got a dual voltage.
Oh yeah, I did. I got a dual voltage straightener and curler thing. That's right. When I was buying that, I did make sure it was dual voltage. So and I got both of those actually on Amazon. If you put in dual voltage for a straightener, you should be able to find one on Amazon that will work with this. But you'll still need this. I didn't realize when I got those that I wouldn't be able to just plug them into the outlets here, but I'd still need one of these, but I did. So dual voltage and one of these little sweethearts right here. And then of course bring any prescription medication that you have. I think that's kind of just like an obvious one, because they don't necessarily have your prescriptions that you can fill over here. So if you're not used to international travel, you might not know that. Just something to know.
Yeah, there's plenty of pharmacies. You can get basic over-the-counter medication if you get sick, you need cough drops. It's very easy to get that stuff here.
Yeah, but when you think about like allergy medications, for instance, if you're used to taking a certain allergy medication, bring enough for your entire trip if you can, because for me, I'm used to if I need something for allergies or something, I'll just use a Zyrtec, and I know how that affects me. I'll use a quarter of one pill. That is like the 24-hour pills, but they don't have Zyrtec that I've seen here. Now they probably have something that is equivalent, but will it make me sleepy? Will just taking a quarter of a tablet work for me? Like how much of it is gonna make me drowsy? Like those types of things, just because allergy medication, you just don't really know how those things are gonna really affect you. So if you can, I would just say bring it. Or you might just have to be experimenting with the ones over here.
Yeah.
And see how it affects your body. So.
Yeah, that's good advice. I found that there's Wi-Fi in most cafes and hotels. So having internet and Wi-Fi is pretty easy here. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know, like, hey, am I going to be able to post to Facebook or communicate with friends and family?
Yeah, with that said, if you are road tripping, there are areas where you will not have Wi-Fi. So
you mean Wi-Fi and reception, like cell reception?
Right.
Yeah.
And so like you downloaded the maps, right, to Google?
Yeah, that's a great point. I use Google Maps, and there's a feature in Google Maps. Click on the little profile icon, then go to offline maps and download maps of New Zealand into your phone. So that way, if you're in an area with no coverage or you've turned off data service because international roaming is too expensive, you can still use Google Maps and it will still know where you are and be able to give you directions.
Right. And so road tripping is similar to the US, although I have to say that the roads are quite curvy in the south part of the North Island. So much so that it actually makes me feel a little bit nauseous when we're driving on those for hours. If you're like me, and I'm not normally somebody who gets sick from driving, but it can literally be like this the entire way. They do sell like these ginger little sucky things that seem to work here, but you might want to bring some anti-nausea medicine just in case that is something that affects you as well, and if the pharmacies are closed. So yeah, and then you could probably speak better to the driving part of it. I'm talking about from the passenger side of it, where with the curvy roads, but John can speak more to the driving side of things.
I think the number one thing is I tell my co-pilot, just remind me, just stay left, stay left. And it's hard at first going around the rotaries in a clockwise direction, having some big intersections, going on a long right turn, remembering to stay left. After having a good co-pilot to do that, it's really not that hard driving here.
And we have a good pilot too,
Yeah.
so that might be why.
Yeah, and road tripping is very similar to the US. There are places to pull over and have a picnic. There are scenic outlooks.
Waterfalls, remember the waterfall that we just this random waterfall?
Yeah, we pulled over to the side of the road and saw a beautiful waterfall. Took lots of pictures. There's so many scenic places to see. It's beautiful. There are plenty of signs for, like, you'll see a picture of a camera pointing left, like, oh, this must be a scenic outlook.
Yeah, they'll even let you know, like they'll have a sign that says like high crash zone or high crash risk, I think is what the sign says, but to let you know that there are a lot of accidents that happen in that area, so just be a little bit more watchful. They do a really great job here, I feel like, with helping you drive if you're not used to driving on that side of the road.
Yeah, and definitely pay attention to what the signs mean. So basically, if you see a sign like this, the red circle and the white, that's a speed limit. And when you see a sign that is yellow around a curve and has a number, that's the speed. You should not go faster than on the curve.
Yeah, because even a little bit over the speed limit, it's not like in the States where it's like, you can drive 5 to 10 over, and even most police officers will let that pass with no big deal. But here, it's not that way at all. Like their signs are serious, like it's this amount is the most, and then not a bit over that. And I think mostly because those curvy roads, you really can't.
Yeah, my experience has been when I see a sign and it says slow down to like 35 kilometers per hour, I've learned to slow down to that speed, because that turn is a blind turn and it's a steep turn. So
they do a good job communicating what speed you should actually be going.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be fine if you go those speeds. Try not to go over those speeds. So when you see a speed limit that's 100 or 110, you're not going 100 or 110 miles an hour. It's kilometers per hour here. And it's okay because the car is in kilometers per hour. So if the sign says 100 and
it matches what your car says.
It matches what your car says. So.
And some of the rental places will also have like a little note on the speedometer that says left to help remind you to stay left.
To keep left.
Yeah. So there's a whole lot of things to know about the driving, and I think you probably want to do another video on that entirely on its own, but that'll be outside of like just visiting New Zealand. If you're just visiting New Zealand, then definitely have a read through, I would say, of the different rules around driving here, but those are some helpful ones.
So if you do plan to road trip across New Zealand, one of the things that we're commonly asked is, like, what kind of food can I find? Is it like the US? And surprisingly, I found there's lots of options for food. We've traveled with a vegan.
On the roads.
On the roads, yeah. We've traveled with a vegan. We've traveled with people that don't drink dairy. We have no problem finding milk alternatives and non-meat options in most towns that we visit.
Yeah, gluten-free stuff.
Yeah, gluten-free as well. Yeah, what we do is we usually find a cafe. Usually cafes and restaurants that have good reviews typically have lots of options. So that's one thing that's good to know on a road trip, is there is lots of options for food here in New Zealand.
But one thing to think about when you are anywhere in New Zealand really is paying attention to the operating hours, because a lot of places that are restaurants will close, restaurants and cafes will close between 2 and 5 or 3 and 5, or they'll just close down for the day at 3 and they're basically a lunch place only. Or just pay attention to those hours of operation, because in the States we're so used to having the convenience of most things being open, especially like you're going to find some fast food open somewhere in between your regular eating hours. But here it's not super common. Not saying it doesn't happen, and certainly not in a lot of touristy places you might find more options, but that's not always the case either. So just something to know is that watch for the hours of operation for restaurants and cafes.
Yeah, and along those lines, if you're visiting a small town that's a touristy town that maybe has just a small number of cafes and restaurants, call ahead or book ahead. We found that sometimes they fill up for the night.
Yeah.
And then what do you do for food?
Right. I mean, you can always go to the grocery store, but if you're looking to eat out, it's not like you're not going to be able to eat. But
yeah, there's plenty of grocery stores, but definitely if you want to eat out, pay attention to the hours at a restaurant and call ahead or book ahead. If you know you're going there, just to make sure that they hold the table for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And the last thing that we recommend doing is look up some adventures in advance and book them in advance.
Yes. Once you know you're going to be visiting New Zealand, you'll want to start booking things right away, even if you're not coming for a few months, because things do book up really quickly there.
Yeah, and even if things are booked up, you can definitely keep checking, because they often do get cancellations.
Right.
So yeah, book early. So those are the things that we recommend doing and bringing before you fly to New Zealand.
John's done a checklist of the items we've talked about, so feel free to click the link and get access to that list.
I hope you like this video. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the things to keep up with our adventures.
And if you have other information you'd like to share, put it in the comments.
Yeah, then we can continue to learn and grow together. Thanks for watching.